Solo leveling has had some insane deaths. Some were heartbreaking, some were straight up disturbing, and yeah, some were just satisfying. So that's why we're going to go through every single death in the entire series, except for all the monster deaths, like Buriura and Vulcan for example. So, the first death in the series actually happens right in episode 1, during the third Jeju Island raid, a year before the main storyline. Here we see Baek Yoonho, Min Byung-gyu, and Yoonsok, 3 Korean S-rank hunters taking on the ants. But things go completely sideways, as Yoonsok gets overwhelmed by a swarm of ants who devoured him alive. So yeah, he's the first character to die, but trust me, he's far from the last. Now, let's jump into the main storyline where we meet the so-called weakest hunter of mankind getting ready for what was supposed to be just a normal D-rank raid. But yeah, that didn't happen. As the raid team pushed deeper into the dungeon and eventually opened the doors to the double dungeon, the moment they stepped into the boss room, the doors slammed shut behind them, and that's when all hell broke loose. The first guy to go was the one who tried to run back and open the doors. Then, more hunters got fried alive by the Statue of God's heat vision. Ju Jae-hwan then tried to make a run for it, but he got instantly taken out as well. One by one, they were slaughtered, including Park Beom-sik. So in total, 11 hunters lost their lives. However, in the end, some of them made it out alive, and it was all thanks to Jin-woo for sacrificing himself. But yeah, this ended up being the best decision of his life, as Jin-woo got infinite aura and awakened as the player of the system. After some brutal and traumatic deaths, it's time for some seriously satisfying ones, starting with the scumbag Hwang Dong-suk in the Dungeon and Lizards arc. As we know, Dong-suk lured Jin-woo and Yoo Jin-ho into a raid, planning to sacrifice them to make some easy money. But yeah, he messed with the wrong guy, as after Jin-woo took down Buriura and even almost scared Jin-ho to death, Dong-suk and his squad came back expecting them to be dead. But when they saw them still alive, they immediately attacked. But Jin-woo, now with the Kill the Enemies quest activated, tore through Dong-suk's squad like they were nothing, absolutely obliterating them. And for Dong-suk, Jin-woo saved him for last, smashing him into the ground and making sure he felt pure terror before finishing him off. So one of the most satisfying deaths in the series, easily. Moving on to the Dungeon and Prisoners arc, and first up, we've got the 3 prisoners who were allowed to join the raid in exchange for reduced sentences. But, little did they know, Tae-shik had been paid 3 billion won by a victim's parent to take them out. So as soon as they were separated from the others, he wiped them out instantly. Unfortunately, Kim Song-shik and Kang Jung-ho, both Double Dungeon survivors, witnessed the murders. And Tae-shik? Yeah, he wasn't about to let them live, so he eliminated Jung-ho on the spot and fatally wounded Kim. Now, Jin-woo didn't really care that Tae-shik killed criminals, but murdering innocent hunters, yeah, that was crossing the line. So Jin-woo jumped in and saved Chi-yul and Ju-hee, taking on Tae-shik himself. So Tae-shik went all out and tried to stealth attack Jin-woo, thinking he had the upper hand. But Jin-woo hit him with his murderous intent, paralyzing him just long enough to stab him right in the chest, ending the B-rank assassin for good. Now, already over 20 humans have died so far, but lucky for the humans, next up is the humanoid Blood Red Commander Igris. When Jin-woo entered the throne room during the Job Change Quest dungeon, Igris didn't waste a second. He immediately pushed Jin-woo to his absolute limit and almost took him out for good. But then, Jin-woo landed a strike straight to Igris' eye and finally took him down. But lucky for Igris and Jin-woo, death wasn't the end. Instead, Jin-woo extracted his shadow, and Igris became one of his strongest and most loyal shadow soldiers. Moving on, we've reached the terrifying Red Gate incident. Here, Kim Chul, the A-rank hunter from the White Tiger Guild, led the raid and split the squad into 2, thinking the weaker hunters, like Jin-woo, would only drag him down. Now, in the anime, Chul's squad ran into the Ice Elves and Baruka, who slaughtered everyone except for Kim, who ran for his life. However, in the manhwa, instead of Ice Elves, they ran into Yetis. But yeah, same outcome, with Kim running away from his slaughtered squad members. But the victims in this Red Gate didn't stop there, as the next one to fall was Mr. Scaredy Cat himself. Because during Jin-woo's fight with Baruka, he realized that he and Igris alone couldn't take him down. So, when Mr. Arrogant Scaredy Cat tried to kill Jin-woo from behind after raging at him for having so much aura, Jin-woo instantly killed Kim and extracted his shadow, naming it Iron. And with Iron now in the fight, Jin-woo and his shadows outsmarted Baruka, with Iron smashing Baruka into the ground with his massive battle axe, finishing him off for good. Next up, we've got the Hunters Guild arc, and it's time to talk about Kargalgan, the leader of the High Orcs and a High Orc shaman. This guy wasn't just strong, he was a complete menace, literally ragdolling Ki-hoon like it was nothing. But then Jin-woo stepped in. Kar-Galgon threw everything he had at him and unleashed his strongest magic. But still, Jinwoo completely overpowered him and took him down without breaking a sweat. And to add insult to injury, Jinwoo's new shadow army of high orcs finished the job, and just like that, Kar-Galgon became Tusk. Returning to the demon castle, Jinwoo finally reached the 100th floor, thanks to Essel, his biggest fangirl. But waiting for him at the top was Baran, the king of demons and monarch of white flames. Well, kinda. See, this was just a weakened replica as the real one had already been killed, but still, this guy was insanely strong. Alongside him was his wyvern, Kaiselin, making things even harder. So, since Baran was airborne, Jinwoo had to bring him down. So, with Tusk blasting fire, Igris took the chance and decapitated Kaiselin in one clean strike. Now, grounded, Jinwoo and his shadows went all in, but Baran was still just too OP and overpowered them. When it looked like Jinwoo was done for, Essel distracted Baran, giving Jinwoo the perfect opening to land a crushing uppercut and finally taking him down. If you thought things were already intense, well, we've now reached the bloodiest arc in the entire series, the 4th Jeju Island raid. After arriving on the island, the Japanese S-rank hunters were spread out in groups to keep the ants busy. And at first, it was working. We saw Kenzo going full beast mode, taking on entire swarms of ants solo, proving why he was one of Japan's strongest. But yeah, things took a turn real fast. Kenzo asked Akari to heal him, and she playfully said she wanted something in return. But before she could even finish her sentence, boom! The Ant King appeared and decapitated her instantly. And from that moment on, the Japanese hunters fell like flies. Kenzo got one shot, Tatsumi got one shot, Kei tried to fight back but didn't stand a chance, and Ippei same story. The Ant King was on a completely different level, and these S-rank hunters never stood a chance. Taking a break from slaughtering the Japanese S-ranks, the Ant King rushed back to the Ant Queen's chamber after hearing her death cry. Turns out the Korean S-rank hunters had already taken her out, with Cha Hai-in delivering the final blow using her sword dance. And seeing his mother's corpse, the Ant King lost it, and in a fit of rage he brutally overpowered the Korean hunters, taking them down one by one. And just when Min Byung-gyu tried to heal his teammates so they could keep fighting, the Ant King devoured his head in one bite. To make it even worse, he absorbed both his language skills and healing abilities through his gluttony skill, making him even stronger. But since the Ant King was itching for a real fight, he left the Korean hunters behind and went looking for someone stronger. And who did he find? Goto Ryuji, as his aura was the strongest on the island. When the Ant King attacked, Goto blocked it, but Mari Ishida wasn't so lucky. She got wiped out instantly. Then Goto told the Ant King he was the strongest, which made the Ant King super excited to fight him. But yeah, Goto only survived one more hit than the others. 2 hits. So far, 8 S-rank hunters have been completely wiped out. But that's when the Aura King stepped in. Jinwoo had enough. He and the Ant King went head-to-head in an intense battle, but Jinwoo countered every single punch with his sheer superior strength. So realizing he couldn't win, the Ant King tried to run for it, but Jinwoo wasn't letting that happen. He stopped him in his tracks and took him out for good. He then, of course, added him to his shadow army and named him Biru. Now, we've got a bunch of innocent high schoolers who tragically lost their lives. As during the Ajin Guild arc, a dungeon break happened at Gina's school, and orcs started flooding out of the gate, massacring students one by one. And Gina? Well, she was seconds away from being next. But of course, Jinwoo came crashing in just in time to save her. And after almost losing his sister, let's just say, he wasn't in a forgiving mood. So yeah, you can probably guess what happened to those orcs. If you thought the dungeon break at Gina's school was terrifying, then you do not want to hear about the S-rank gate in Tokyo during the Tokyo Crisis arc, because this time we're talking about literally giant human-eating monsters. Luckily, Yuri Orlov, the Russian S-rank hunter, was already on the scene and used his barrier magic to seal off the gate and keep the giants from escaping. Unfortunately, his barrier was nowhere near strong enough to handle the supergiant who shattered the barrier in one swing. And Orlov? He completely froze in fear, and before he could even think about running, the giant straight up ate him. But just like in the Jeju Island raid, Mr. Aura King had to step in and handle things himself. Jinwoo wiped out every single giant in Tokyo, except for the king of giants, Legia, who was chained up inside the S-rank gate. When Jinwoo found him, Legia tried to talk his way out, claiming he'd fight alongside Jinwoo in the upcoming war against the monarchs. But Jinwoo wasn't buying it, So Legia instantly attacked, but Jinwoo effortlessly dodged and took his head clean off in one strike. Now, moving into the International Guild Conference arc, and this is where some of the absolute strongest hunters in the world met their end. And first up is Christopher Reed, one of the 5 national level hunters and the 3rd strongest hunter in the world. Chris woke up in the middle of the night only to find Tarnak, the Monarch of Iron, standing right in front of him, while Rakan and Qureysha came in from behind. And if you don't already know, the Monarchs are basically an ancient race of OP monsters who want to wipe out humanity, so yeah, they're pure evil. Anyway, Chris had no idea who these guys were, but he knew they were here to kill him. So he went all out, but unfortunately, even with his spiritual body manifestation, he stood no chance against 3 Monarchs at once. And like I said, he wasn't the only top-tier hunter to go down, as next up, we've got Jonas, the strongest hunter in Brazil, ranked 6th in the world, and yeah, he didn't stand a chance either, as the Monarchs took him out as well. Still in the International Guild Conference arc, the next to die was Hwang Dong-soo. But was he taken out by the Monarchs too? Nope. Or, well, actually yeah, because it was Jinwoo, aka the Shadow Monarch, who killed him. As we all know, Dong-soo's whole life mission was to kill Jinwoo, so he came up with a desperate plan. He kidnapped Jinho, thinking he could use him as bait to trap Jinwoo. But, big mistake. Jinwoo pulled up, saved Jinho, and absolutely destroyed Dong-soo. Even though Dong-soo fought back, it was completely pointless, as Jinwoo overwhelmed him and finished him off without breaking a sweat. And to add insult to injury, Jinwoo extracted his shadow and named it Greed. That's just next level disrespect. Reaching the Monarch War arc, we get one of the saddest deaths ever in solo leveling, Go Gunhee's murder. After working late, Gunhee sensed something was off and was caught off guard when Silled, the Frost Monarch, suddenly appeared. And knowing he couldn't win, Gunhee still put up a fight and tried to buy time for Jinwoo to arrive. But his 80-year-old body eventually gave out, leaving him wide open for Silled to stab him through the chest. And although Jinwoo rushed to save him, it was too late. Even when Jinwoo tried to heal him, Gunhee refused, and instead only thanked Jinwoo for fighting on humanity's side. And with that, he silently accepted his fate and bled out right there in his office. After Gunhee's death, Jinwoo was on a warpath, so when Silled returned with backup from Rakan and Qureysha, Jinwoo didn't hesitate to fight them all. But in the middle of this intense battle, Qureysha got distracted trying to control Beeroo, leaving her wide open for Jinwoo's sneak attack. But she regenerated, and now furious, she charged at Jinwoo with the intent to kill. But Jinwoo easily dodged and shredded her to pieces using mutilation. And realizing it was over, Qureysha accepted her fate just before her body crumbled to dust. So, 1 down and 2 to go, but the next one to die? Yeah, it was actually Jinwoo himself. As Silled pushed Jinwoo to his absolute limit, using his spiritual body manifestation to keep him distracted, Rakan landed a sneak attack and stabbed Jinwoo right through the chest with his claws. So yeah, Jinwoo straight up died. But then his black heart, which he got from Ashbourne, the original Shadow Monarch, suddenly started beating and Jinwoo began breathing again. So while he technically died, he came back stronger than ever. So now, with Jinwoo back alive and now fully awakened as the true Shadow Monarch, it wasn't even close anymore, as he effortlessly slaughtered both Silled and Rakan. After taking out these 2 monarchs, Jinwoo rushed to his father's side, whose body was literally falling apart after using too much power, as Ilhwan had been fighting to protect Jinwoo from Silled and Rakan, not letting them land the final blow before Jinwoo could come back alive. Now Jinwoo, seeing his father again after all this time, demanded answers. And with little time left, Ilhwan tearfully explained what had happened after he got trapped in the dungeons. And in his final moments, he embraced his son, apologizing for not being a better father. And then he dissolved into shards of light, disappearing forever. Probably the most devastating death in the entire series. Okay, moving on from the intense Monarch War, we reach the final battle arc, and the first to fall here was Adam White, the chief of the Federal Bureau of Hunters' Asian branch. While monitoring a gate in Canada, Adam saw Antares, the strongest monarch, step out. Jinwoo, on the phone, frantically told him to run, but Adam was too close to escape. So before he could react, Antares' breath attack hit him at point-blank range, killing him instantly. And Adam wasn't the only one Antares completely evaporated. Jay Mills, the strongest hunter in Canada and ranked 17th in the world, was also there when Antares emerged from the gate. And when Antares demanded to know the location of the Human King, having no idea he was looking for Jinwoo, Jay arrogantly claimed himself as the king and prepared for battle. But before he could even make a move, Antares effortlessly burned him to ashes with a single breath attack. But enough of the human deaths, because now it's time for Tarnak, the Monarch of the Iron Body, to fall. When Antares invaded the human world, Tarnak tagged along and spotted Thomas Andre on the battlefield. Confident in his strength, he rushed into fight, but before he could react, Belian and Bi-Ru, two of Jinwoo's strongest shadows, emerged from Thomas's shadow, completely catching him off guard. Furious at falling for Jinwoo's trap, Tarnak activated his spiritual body manifestation and tried to take on all three of them at once. But despite his power, he was quickly overwhelmed, and Thomas, Belian, and Bi-Ru took him down with ease. Now it was time for Jinwoo to take revenge against Antares, the strongest monarch of them all. So, after Antares arrived with his 10 million strong army, Jinwoo quickly tricked him and dragged him to a remote island for a one-on-one showdown. And yeah, this fight was insane, with Jinwoo pushing himself to his limit, but eventually landing a slash on Antares. And that was all the rulers needed, as the rulers now descended into the human world, completely cornered him, and stabbed him with their divine spears, killing him once and for all. Now, that was all the deaths, right? Well, not quite. Because we've now reached the epilogue, and even though I've already spoiled pretty much everything, this is where the biggest spoilers drop. So, big spoiler alert. Alright, let's get into it. After using the Cup of Reincarnation to rewind time, Jinwoo went on a relentless hunt for the monarchs, wiping them out one by one. And eventually, only two monarchs were left, Yogamont and Antares. And when Jinwoo finally faced Yogamont in a one-on-one fight, it wasn't even close, with Jinwoo effortlessly taking him out. Now, only Antares was left, because being the strongest monarch, Jinwoo saved him for last, and Antares knew that, so he waited patiently in his grand palace for the final showdown. When Jinwoo finally arrived, Antares didn't waste a second. He activated his spiritual body manifestation in excitement, ready for battle. But this time, Jinwoo was on a whole different level. So after an intense battle, Jinwoo took him down, officially ending the reign of the monarchs. And there you guys have it, all deaths in solo leveling. Which death was the saddest? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and watch this video next.